This happened in 2019. I no longer have contact with this person. When my husband and I lived in our first apartment together, I did not have a job. We had just moved to a new city and I had trouble finding anything. Naturally, I was at home because of this. Every day at the same time would walk my dog, Remy, 7F or 7 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. We would always walk the same route in front of the leasing office, across the street, by the basketball courts and by the tennis courts before walking the rest of the property of the apartment complex. The first encounter I had with this guy gave me tons of red flags, and I did not report him to the leasing office because of his behavior. As I was walking Remy back home, this man who looks like he was in his 40s, glasses, gray hair, was walking from the basketball courts to the sidewalk. I stopped with Remy because she was going to try and jump on her if she got close enough. He noticed us and asked, "Is she aggressive?" I told him no, she will just jump. And I know some people don't like dogs or dogs jumping on them. He looked me up and down, staring at my chest for a second, then asked if he could pet her. I said, sure, because Remy's tail was going 1,000,000 miles an hour and she was whining to meet a new person. He started to talk to me while he was petting Remy. I'm Joe. Fake name. I just moved in across the street. What is your dog's name? I was nice to him enough, though. I had a weird feeling while talking to him. This is Remy. I'm Megan. Fake name. I live next to the groundskeeper with my fiance. You'll like it here. The staff are awesome. The entire time I was talking, he was petting Remy and staring at my chest. Joe thanked me for letting him pet my dog, then turned around to leave. I was weirded out, but brushed it off and told myself it was probably nothing. I walked Remy the rest of the way home, but I noticed that Joe had went into the entrance of his apartment building, but was watching me walk home through the glass. I hightailed it the rest of the way to my apartment. It freaked me out enough. I called the leasing office and told them that Joe has watched me walk home after meeting me, and I was genuinely uncomfortable with him. I also had them come fix the blinds in our dining room because I didn't want anyone looking inside our apartment. After I loaded myself into the car and drove to my Mills house, I stayed there until my now husband got home. Anytime I walked Remy and eventually Peach, my other dog, Joe always was somehow outside when I was. He always tried to come talk to me or pet the dogs. Luckily, when I would walk Peach, she would growl at him. She was and still is very protective of me. If I ever walked the dogs with my husband, he would never come talk to me. It was only if I was alone with Remy or if I was alone. He also would start walking by the front of our apartment when my husband wasn't home. He would try to look through the sliding door to get a glimpse of me. My husband and I decided to move into a bigger apartment because we needed more space for the dogs and ourselves. The day I got the keys for our new apartment just down the street, I had another experience with Joe that made me call the cops. I was walking both of the dogs around the block so I could finish up some last-minute packing. I saw Joe pull into the complex in his car. I stopped to let him go past me, but he waved me to cross the road. When I did cross, he pulled around really fast with his window already rolled down. Hey, Megan, I was wondering, are you happy with your husband? If not, I can help you out. he said. He looked me up and down and gave me a wink. I acted like I didn't hear him since I had headphones in. I immediately went inside and locked the door behind me. I called the leasing office and told them what happened. I also let them know I was going to call the cops at least make a report because his behavior was freaking me out and I wanted to at least have it documented. I called the non-emergent line and an officer came out. I told him what happened that day and some of the creepy behavior Joe had before. The cop asked me to do what you want, to give him a warning to not talk to you. I said yes. I thanked the officer for his time after he took my name and phone number down, and he went to the leasing office to talk to the staff about the situation. About an hour after the cop left, he gave me a call. He told me he has talked with the property manager of my apartment, and he also ran Joe's license plate number. He told me his name and told me that the leasing office said he has other complaints from other tenants on file. He also mentioned he didn't get the chance to talk to him because Joe was leaving as the cop arrived at the leasing office. I thanked him again for his time and finished packing. I decided to go to the leasing office to talk to the property manager just to clear anything up just in case. When I got there, the manager told me that Joe had multiple reports just like the officer told me. She also told me she was going to have our on-site officers stop and talk to him and encourage him to not talk to me or other female residents. I thanked her and I went home to start moving little things. Until my husband got home, I went about 6 months without another incident with Joe. We moved to the 3rd floor and he didn't have any idea which apartment was us, so he wouldn't bother us. I also made it a point to have the dogs on a certain schedule so I would never run into him if we were out. The last time Joe tried to talk to me, I turned around and walked away. I didn't let him get a word, and I didn't notice him harassing my neighbor outside while she was grilling one day. I told the leasing office about it just in case. A couple months later, he moved out because they wouldn't let him re-sign his lease. That's the last I saw of Joe. I carry a stun gun with me when I walk the dogs or by myself because of him. I was fully prepared to shock his ass a couple times if he ever got too close after I called the cops on him. So I used to live at the top of a hill with my boyfriend, now husband, and because he has travel anxiety, he can't get on public transport, e.g. Uber, and therefore would walk everywhere. This was the same hill we lived on in my previous post about the creepy white van. We have since moved several times, and I've not had any more incidents. We were planning on going out that night, so he headed down, and I ordered my Uber as normal. Everything was fine and uneventful as I got in, and he dropped me off at the local pub in town. It wasn't until I wanted to go home and I felt like walking, but he didn't wish to leave. Our days off didn't line up much, so I had work early next morning. I was almost at the top of the hill and it had started raining. This was around 9 p.m., so not very late. I'm listening to music on my headphones and thinking about how nice it'll be to curl up in bed knowing my boyfriend wouldn't be that long before he was home. I've heard a honk which made me almost jump out of my skin. I look over and it was the same Uber driver who dropped me into town. He was leaning across to the passenger side with the window down, asking if I wanted a ride anywhere. My anxiety and gut feelings were screaming at me not to get in this car. Alarm bells were ringing. I had not ordered this Uber. I told him no thank you when he eventually drove off. Why would I get into this guy's car when I hadn't ordered the ride? He couldn't have been totally innocent, and he was trying to be nice to offer me a lift due to the rain, but I found it a bit fishy. I called my boyfriend and told him about the incident, and he headed home. So one Friday night back in September 2022, I had absolutely nothing to do. My friends were out of town, and my family lives a couple hours from where I live, so I decided to spend some time alone, use some medical herbs, and play video games. Rocket League while toasted is a grand oil time. It was great. I was having fun until I got some big time munchies. I didn't have a lot of food in the house, and I wanted to get some exercise because I had been sitting down all day, so I decided to go out and get some food. It was getting late, and I was in no condition to drive. However, there's a grocery store a couple blocks from where I live, so I decided to walk over and get some much-needed munchies. For those questioning why I walked outside late at night, I'm a 22-year-old male, 6'2", and 235 pounds, who has been lifting weights and playing sports since I was 14, so I wasn't too concerned about anything crazy happening. I also live in a pretty safe area, so I grabbed my phone, wallet, and keys and walked to the store. Nothing weird happened on the way there. I went in, got my snacks, and left with no issues. I left the store and started walking home, grocery bags filled with substance. I was on the sidewalk, and next to the sidewalk is a loading lot where trucks come in and out to drop off whatever the stuff the store sells. I'm walking along, headphones on, when a beat-up early 2000s red Nissan Sandra flies into the loading lot and pulls up next to me. A guy 5'7" and 110 pounds who looked to be in his mid to late 20s got out of the car and walked up to me. I didn't know him, and I was taken aback because he just walked up confidently to me like we knew each other, and B, looked skinny in the I use hard drugs way. He stopped about 6 feet away from me and smiled and said, "Hey man, I used to mob these streets all the time. You need a ride?" I looked in the car and saw a girl, 18 or 19 by my guess, alternating between watching us out of the corner of her eye and looking at her phone, hitting a box mod while she did. I responded and said, "I'm good. I need the exercise, but thanks." His facial expression immediately changed from going from, "What's up, bro?" to almost sizing me up and seeming debating with himself whether he should push the issue. He then turned around and quietly said, "Okay." He quickly got in his car and aggressively threw it in reverse, stopped for 20 seconds talking to the girl in the car, then peeled the hell out of the lot. I walked home a lot quicker than I did walk into the store. I haven't thought of looking over my shoulder the whole time. I haven't thought about it a lot, but recently told some friends and they thought it was super weird. Curious to hear y'all's thoughts. In high school, my friend and I, both 17, both 17 meters, we call him Jay. We'll call him Jay. Frequented trails to go for smoke walks. On this fall afternoon, we went to a familiar trail in a moderately wooden area. One blunt into our walk, and an odd man comes on the path. He startled us. He was a middle-aged and plainly dressed. But I think he had some condition. He looked like a stocky Ethan Hawke with crazy eyes, and he spoke to us like a child. The child this man was worrying about hide and go seek, frequently asking, "Have you seen two kids?" Jay and I were both puzzled. We took obvious note of the creepy man in the woods asking about kids, but we didn't know what to do or say. We ignored him and continued on the trail to spark another. On our way back to the trail access, we see the childish man on the path, yet now with a tall, slim man. Jay urged me to get us out of there. Jay was already confrontational, and we both felt an eerie tension, yet the whole thing was fishy, and I didn't want to regret doing nothing if some kids were at risk. I asked, "Why the hell is your friend asking about some kids?" They both give the same weird hide and go seek with two kids. The tall man claimed to be the father. He was more witted than his childish companion, and he kept questioning my concern for his kids. The tall man was getting angry, veering on threatening. I had a bad gut feeling, but decided to leave the whole weird encounter behind. Yet, on our way out of the woods, we see a boy and girl stand up from a wheat field. They just rose up like a poem and deserved to see if they needed help. Yet they were cheerfully waving at us. I had a thumbs out, and they signaled back. I got in the car with Jay, and we got the hell out of there. Was it just a good father and uncle playing innocent games with their two kids? Was I being nosy and blowing things out of proportion? To this day, I bear an uneasy guilt/anxiety for those kids. I never thought to write about this story. Jay and I still reminisce on it. I never forgot the moment we first came upon the childish man. I just want to clarify that this is almost definitely a harmless case. However, at the time, it was so fishy that I was positive we were being filmed in a special Woodland episode of What Would You Do? That said, I was always aware at the time that the first man more than likely had a disability of some kind, and his appearance at first was truly startling, and the comportment of the tall man definitely raised my suspicions.